Welcome to the online lectures for software engineering. In today's class, we'll be discussing agile process models. Now we have discussed what is agility. Now what is agility? Agility is going to provide you with changes that you can make within requirements, technology, and people. That is, whenever you're making an agile process model, you can make these changes whenever and how many times you want. And these changes can be customer requirements. These can be completely changed in the technology that you're using or the people that you're working with, the team that is working on the particular project. Now, we have already discussed the different assumptions for agile process models. Now, within this assumption, the first assumption is it is difficult to predict which requirement is going to persist and which one is going to change. To predict which requirement will persist and which ones are going to change. Now in here it is difficult to predict which ones are going to be there and which ones are going to change, because in here the agile process model, it is going to focus on changing in different areas of development of the particular project. And the second assumption is, in many softwares that you are developing, you're going to leave the design and construction part. That is, you're not going to focus upon the design and construction part. Now why we are not going to focus upon the design and construction part? Because as the requirements are changing, you do not know how many prototypes need to be developed for designing for this complete for completing the entire project. How many prototypes are required? You do not know how many number will be required. And in here you're also leaving the design and construction part, because these two need to be done parallelly. When you're designing and you're constructing, that is what changes are made within the requirements, those need to reflect within the designing and construction part. Then the third assumption, that is from the planning point of view, when you are within the planning phase, from this phase it is very difficult to predict the analysis, that is mapping the requirements within the software to the customer requirements, the designing part, as in the second assumption we are leaving it, and the construction and testing. These four are not predictable from the planning point of view. So this is a brief recap of what is agility. Now the different agile process models, there are 7 models that we are going to study within the software engineering syllabus. The first model is extreme programming. Now this extreme programming model, it is the shortcut, you can say the short form is XP. From extreme you're taking the X, and from programming the P. This is extreme programming. Now this extreme programming model, this is the most widely used agile model. That is, in here many technologies that you're developing, they are going to follow this extreme programming software. This software was designed by Kent Beck. This particular person has designed this extreme programming model. Now, this extreme programming, it uses an object-oriented approach. Now, what do you mean by an object-oriented approach? This object-oriented approach, this is going to focus on the behavior and structure of the particular program. It is going to focus on behavior and structure. Now, when you focus on the behavior and structure, it becomes easy for you to improve the software that you're developing. So XP uses an object-oriented approach, and this is a preferred development paradigm. Now, development, what is paradigm? Paradigm means model. Whenever you're developing a model, this you basically first go for the extreme programming. That is, what is the preferred one? Extreme programming is the preferred one. Then it is lightweight. Lightweight means it is not complex, and it is efficient. It gives you efficient results. It is going to have low risks, it is flexible, that it is easily adaptable, it is easily predictable. That is, if suppose you're going to give some specific input, on that what output you're going to get. It is predictable, and it is a scientific way to develop a software. Now, extreme programming. Now, we have seen that this particular model, it was followed by multiple people that are developing the software. It is a preferred paradigm. Now, in here, this is a preferred paradigm for small to medium sized projects. You do not go for extreme programming when you have a large project. You go for extreme programming when you've got a small to a medium sized project. Now, in here, as extreme programming, it is an agile model, so it is going to work under rapidly changing requirements, because that is what agile models are made for. Extreme programming encompasses a set of rules and practices that occur within the context of 4 framework activities. That is, extreme programming is going to focus on a set of rules and practices that are going to be embedded within the 4 framework activities. Now, in here, the 4 framework activities are planning, design, coding, and testing. Now, within all these 4 framework activities, you're going to embed certain rules that you need to follow, plus certain practices. These are going to be followed for each and every framework activity within the extreme programming. Now, coming on to the diagram for extreme programming. Now, in here, you're going to have these 4 phases: planning, design, coding, and testing. These are the 4 phases. These are going to happen within the first one is planning phase. When planning is completed, you're going to go to the design, then coding, then test. When all those 4 framework activities are completed, you have a software that is fully functional and that you can use. Now, first focusing on the first extreme programming framework activity, that is planning. Now, within this planning phase, you've got now stories, values, acceptance test criteria, and iteration plan. Now, in detail, we'll be discussing this. Now, this extreme programming, it is going to begin with the creation of set of stories. Now, in here, what are the stories? Stories are going to be the requirements that the end user wants within the software. You're going to name this as stories. This is also called as user stories, because those are the features that the end user wants within the software. So the first step is you're going to design, you're going to create set of stories. What are the requirements you want within the particular software? Then each story is written by the customer and it is placed on the index card. Now, in here, these requirements will be specified by the customer only. Now, each of this customer is going to write down each requirement on an index card. Now, this index card, an example for this index card, you can take it as like a sticky note. What you're going to do is, on a board, what you're going to do, you're going to have a board. On this board, you're going to have first story. That is the first requirement. Then you might have the second requirement, third, fourth. You're going to have the set of requirements that are going to be posted as index cards. That is one feature you're going to write down and you're going to post it on the board. After that, you're going to assign a value to the priority to the story. Now, that is 8 requirements you want within the software. Now, within this 8 requirements, which are the most important ones? What is the first priority? That is, you can say that if a particular customer has 8 requirements, within this 8 requirement, the first priority is given to the 8th requirement. 8th requirement has the first priority, then third requirement has the second priority, fourth may have the third. The same way you're going to write down the priority for each and every story that you've posted. Now, priority means if suppose you need to cut down on the cost of the software that you're developing. So in here, what you might do, this 8th requirement, that is the lowest priority requirement, that can be eliminated to balance the cost. That is why you're going to assign priority to each story. Now, priority means which is the most important one. You're going to label the important ones. The next is agile team assesses each story and assigns a cost. Now, in here, you're going to have the team members or the managers that are going to have a look on the different stories that were posted by the customer. So in here, this team is going to assess each story and assign a cost. That is, in here, for the development of one requirement, you need to spend this much money. you're going to assign the cost for each requirement. For each requirement, you're going to assign a cost. Now, why you're assigning cost? So that you can have an overall view, or you can have just like how much your project is going to cost, so that you can estimate a cost. You're going to assign each priority a cost. Now, after assigning the priorities, you're going to group the stories. Stories are grouped together for a deliverable increment. Now, in here, a deliverable increment means this extreme programming follows an incremental process. That is, you can keep on updating the software. You're not going to completely deliver the fully functional software. You are going to keep on adding different features within the software with each update. So in here, as you've got 8 requirements, within this 8 requirements, what you're going to do in here is, within this, you are going to group. That is the first priority one is the 8th requirement. So you're going to group first and the second requirement together. This will be delivered within the first increment. Then you can group the 4th requirement and the 7th requirement into the second increment. That is, each of these are going to be combined so that you can identify how you're going to deliver each of these requirements. You're going to group each of these requirements so that you identify which requirements are to be delivered together. Next is a commitment is made on the delivery date, and the extreme programming team orders the stories to be developed. Now in here, when you have got all the set of features, you grouped all the stories, you're going to identify when you're going to deliver this to the end user, when you're going to deploy the set of features to the end user. You're going to fix a delivery date. Now when a date is being fixed, the team is going to order that these features need to be developed. That is, you're going to start with the development plan. Then the last point is, after the first software increment, the extreme programming team computes the project velocity. Now in here, project velocity, this is identified so that you identify at what pace you are developing the software. What is the speed or how much time is required to deliver each increment. Now, when you identify what is the pace of the software that you're developing, you can identify at what specific dates you can deliver the next increment, so that you can set the delivery dates for the different increments. Like in here, we have identified the first increment can be taken a specific date. Then second increment, you're going to specify a specific date for each of this increment. For the first increment, second, and goes on till the next increment. Now there's the extreme programming planning phase. We have completed the planning phase. The first one is completed. The next phase is design phase. Now within this design phase, for simple designs, you've got CRC cards, and you've got Spike solutions that are used for prototypes. Now first, let's identify what is CRC and what are Spike solutions. Now, a Spike solution, it is a program to explore potential solutions. That is, in here, for a specific set of requirements, you're going to have a program. For this particular program, if you give a particular input, now this input is going to be your problem. You might enter the problem. It is going to give you the solution. What are the different possible solutions that you can use within the software? Now, this Spike solutions is used for difficult design. For difficult designs, you're going to make use of Spike solutions. That is, for difficult designs, it will be very difficult for you to identify what are the different features that are going to be there within the software, what will be the functionality of each and every component. So that is why you're going to use the Spike solutions. And for difficult designs, you're going to make use of prototypes. Now, what are prototypes? Prototypes are models. You're going to develop a model for difficult designs. Whereas CRC cards, these CRC cards are used for simple designs that are not complex. Now in here, within the CRC card, you're going to have a box. The first box is going to be the class name. Then you're going to have the responsibilities and collaborators. Now if we take an example of ATM machine, Now in here within the ATM machine, the first step that you do is you're going to insert the card within the ATM machine. So in here, tell the ATM that card is being inserted. This is a responsibility. Now this responsibility will be carried out by the ATM machine itself. It is going to detect that the card is being inserted. Then when you have inserted the card information is going to be read. Now in here, when you read the card information, it is going to ask you to enter the PIN. Now, after you enter the PIN, you might withdraw the cash. After that, you are going to eject the card. Now, if suppose, now this is a scenario when you have entered the correct PIN, you have withdrawn the cash and you're going to eject the card. This is the first scenario. Whereas if suppose you enter a wrong PIN, when you enter wrong PIN for a certain number of times, your card is going to be retained. That is, the machine is going to suck in the card. Now, all of these three tasks will be followed by the card. This all tasks are going to be followed by this card reader. The entire card is going to be ejected, the card information is going to be read, and the card is going to be retained. So this is for a simple design. It will be easy for you to just write down and identify who is going to do what responsibilities and who is going to collaborate for completing that particular responsibility. So this CRC cards, it is used for the simple design, whereas prototypes are developed for difficult design by making use of spike solutions. Now, the next phase is the designing phase, the extreme programming designing phase. Now, this designing phase, it follows the keep it simple principle. The design what you're making, it should not be complex, it should be simple. It should be simple because when you've got a simple design, it will be easy to maintain, and even the end user will be easily able to understand what are the different features that are going to be developed within the software. That is, if you're developing a prototype is going to have different models, different functionalities and features. If you represent it to the end user, it becomes easy for him to understand what is the functionalities that are being developed within the software. Then extreme programming, it encourages the use of CRC, that is class responsibility collaborator cards, because it is an effective mechanism for thinking about the software in an object-oriented context. Now, in here, XP design is going to focus on CRC cards when you've got a simple design. When you've got a simple software to develop, you're going to focus on CRC cards, because CRC card, it is an effective way to develop a software and it is going to follow the object oriented context. That is, in object oriented context means you're going to focus on improving the quality and productivity of the software. The next one is for difficult designs. For difficult design problems, you're going to make use of spike solutions. Now, when are we using spike solutions? When you've got difficult a difficult software to develop. Now, in here, you're going to design a model. Now in here, within this extreme programming phase, it is going to encourage refactoring. Now within the diagram, we have seen that refactoring is actually within the construction phase. So in here, this design phase is going to encourage refactoring. It is not going to perform refactoring, but it is encouraging refactoring. Now what is refactoring? Refactoring means you're going to enhance the code without affecting the output. That is, every time you're going to get the same output, whereas the internal structure of the code, it is going to be simplified every time you're doing refactoring. Now this designing phase, this is going to occur before and after the coding. Every time you're doing the coding, before the coding you need to go for CRC cards and spike solutions, and after the coding part also you need to go for the CRC card and the spike solutions. Now in here, within the design phase, for simple design, CRC is done. For difficult design, prototype. And this design phase, it encourages refactoring. We have studied this refactoring phase that is within the coding. Now within coding, you've got pair programming and continuous integration. Now let's see this, what this is in detail. Now, extreme programming coding, it recommends that construction of series of unit tests. Now, what are unit tests? Unit test means each and every component that you're going to use within the software, you are going to test that component individually. You're going to test each and every component individually so that you identify whether that particular component is working properly or not. So you're going to just construct a series of unit tests. You're just going to design the unit test, how many unit tests on how many components you're going to perform. Now in here, these unit tests are performed for each and every story before the coding takes place. What are stories? Stories are your requirements. The next one is it encourages pair programming. Now in here, as the word pair means, these are two people are going to work within the programming. Now pair programming is used because it is that two heads are better than one. That is, two people are going to provide you with a better solution than just depending upon one person. Now whenever you're using pair programming, that is when you've got two developers that are working on the particular project, they are going to have a complete focus on the problem that they are working on. Now if suppose one person is distracted, he's going to say that let's spend some time within the cafeteria. The other person is going to just drag you and take you back to the construction field. You need to work on them. And it also encourages a real-time problem solving and real-time quality assurance, because as you've got two programmers, if suppose one is going to help you to design the different phases of, or one is doing the embedding of the features within the software, the other is going to test it by making use of a real-time scenario. So when two people are there, it is going to be very good for the project because it is going to help within the problem solving and also ensure that the best quality software is being developed. Then the third one is it needs continuous integration with other small stories of the software, which provides smoke testing. Now in here, continuous integration means as you're using different components are being used in here. So in here, each and every component need to be integrated within the software. Now, if suppose you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 components are there. 4 components are there that are being completely developed. Now, within the previous example, you have seen that till 8 features were there. So in here, what you're going to do now, if suppose 1, 2, 3, and 4 are completed, you're going to assemble each of them together, and then you're going to do the testing part. Now, when 6, 7, 8 are completed, you're going to add all of them, and then you're going to do the testing part. You're going to continuously integrate how many components are completed, you're going to attach them, join them, and you're going to do the testing. And in here, it also provides you with smoke testing. Another type of testing that is going to be performed in here is smoke testing. Now what is smoke testing? Within smoke testing, you're going to test the main functions of the software. Now when you test the main functions of the particular software, you can identify and you can remove the different types of errors that might occur within the particular software. So within the coding phase, you're going to design the unit tests. You're going to encourage pair programming, so that pair programming is going to help you solve real-time problems and keep the programmers focused. And how many softwares are developed, you're going to continuously integrate them, join each of them, and do the testing. Smoke testing in here, you're going to test the main functions of the particular software that is being developed so that you can uncover errors at an early stage. Now we've studied coding, you've got the pair programming, continuous integration. Now in here, this unit test within the testing phase, that is the fourth one. In this, you have, in the coding phase, you have designed unit test, whereas within the fourth phase, you are actually going to do the unit test in here. Within fourth phase, you are going to actually perform the unit test. Whereas within the coding phase, you just design the different unit tests. Now within testing, you're going to have unit testing and acceptance testing. Now unit tests should be implemented using a framework to make testing automated. Now in here, unit testing means testing each and every component individually. Now if suppose you're making any change within the software, any changes are there within a particular component, then this testing should be automated. That is, it needs to check itself whether it is working well or not. It needs to start the testing. Now this also encourages a regression testing strategy. Now what is regression testing? Regression testing is important for 2 marks. What is regression testing? Regression testing means whenever you're making any changes within the particular component, you're going to test this entire component altogether again to identify if the output has changed, if any fault is being occurred, and you're also going to do this to identify whether it is affecting any other part of the program, affecting some other part of the component. Now how does it affect the other part of the particular component? Is it might take input from a component and it might give output to another component. So if you have any bug within this component that you have made a change, so it is going to affect the other parts of the program also. The next is you're going to perform integration and validation testing. Now what is integration? As multiple components that you're developing, each need to be assembled all together. That is called as integration. And validation testing. What is validation testing? Validation testing is done to identify whether all the features that are embedded within the software, whether they satisfy the customer business needs or not. Whereas the fourth one is acceptance testing. Now what happens in acceptance testing? This acceptance testing is also called as customer testing. Now within acceptance testing, you're going to identify whether all the features that are there within the software, whether those are same as what the end user has told you, whether they match the end user stories or not. You're going to find out that within the acceptance testing. Then these acceptance tests, these are derived from user stories, because when you have documented all the user stories, from there only you can identify what are the different acceptance tests you need to do to identify whether all of the features that were told by the end user to embed within the software, whether they are present within the software or not. So now we have completed all the 4 features. A quick recap within the planning phase. What you're going to do within the planning phase, you're going to take all the user stories. After taking all the user stories, you're going to post them as index card onto a wall. Then you're going to assign priority, that is which one are the highest priority stories that you want within the software. Then for each story, you're going to assign a cost to the software. After that, you're going to group the stories so that you can identify in how many increments you're going to deliver the software, or which is going to be the first increment and the second increment. Then you're going to make commitments, that is on some specific date you're going to deliver the specific functionality. Then you're also going to compute the project velocity, that is the pace at which you are developing the software, so that you can identify how much time you can deliver the different stories that are a part of the software. That is the planning phase. Then within the design phase, for simple designs, CRC cards are going to be used when you've got a simple design. Whereas you're going to make use of spike solutions. Now within spike solutions, what happens when you give a specific input or a specific input as a problem, it is going to give you the different set of possible solutions for that particular problem. Now, based on this, you're going to develop a prototype. Now, what is a prototype? A prototype is a model. Now, for a difficult problem, it is efficient when you have a dummy piece of model or a dummy software that is called as a prototype, so that you can identify what are the different features and how the user interface is going to look like. Everything you can have a look by looking at the prototype. Then this design, it also encourages refactoring. What is refactoring? Refactoring is you're going to continuously improve the internal structure of the code without affecting the output. The next one is coding. Now, within the coding phase, what is going to happen? You're going to construct the different unit tests that you're going to do for each particular component. Then within pair programming, you're going to have two programmers that are going to work for the software. Now, pair programming is going to help you to be focused on the problem, and it is also going to help you to identify any real-time problems that might occur within the software, and it also ensures the best quality software. This is the coding part. Within the coding part, you also have this continuous integration. Continuous integration means you're going to assemble the components that are being completed. You're going to assemble the components and you're going to do the testing in here. What type of testing we have discussed? The smoke testing. Within smoke testing, you're going to test the main features so that you can uncover errors at an early stage. The last part is testing. Now, within this testing phase, the unit tests that you have constructed, you're going to perform this unit test. Now, these unit tests that you're performing in here, they should be automated unit tests, and this is going to encourage regression testing. What is regression testing? Regression testing means every time you're making a change within a particular software, you need to test the entire component, where input is coming from to where output is going, whether it is affecting another part of the program. You're going to identify that within the regression testing. Then in here, you're going to perform integration of all the components all together, and then doing the validation testing, whether all the requirements that are stated by the end user, whether all of them are present within the software or not. Then at the end, you're going to do is acceptance testing. Acceptance testing are defined from the user stories. There's extreme programming agile model, an important model. Now, moving on to the next model, that is the adaptive software development, also called as ASD. Now, this particular model, it was developed by Jim Highsmith. This is the person that developed the particular model. Now, this model was designed to build complex softwares and systems. Now, in here, the previous extreme programming model, it was designed so that some small to medium sized teams can work on that, whereas this particular model was designed so that you can build complex software by making use of the ASD technique. Now, this ASD technique, it is going to completely focus on human collaboration. That is how you're going to communicate, how different team members are going to communicate, how end user and developer are going to communicate, how managers and developers are going to communicate. And it also focuses on team self-organization. That is the different teams that they're working on, how they're going to communicate, how they're going to make their own goals, how they're going to plan each risk, how they're going to eliminate those risks. This is the main feature of the ASD agile model. Now, there are three phases within the agile modeling. The first is speculation, second collaboration, and third is learning. Three phases. Now within speculation, you've got adaptive cycle planning, user mission statement, project constraint, basic requirements, time box release plan. Now let's see what these are in detail. Now this adaptive software development, it is an iterative process. Now iterative process means it is a continuous process that incorporates an adaptive cycle planning. Now in here, as this is a continuous process that you're developing a software, the cycle that you're following for planning, it is also adaptive. That is, in here, agile model means you're going to make any changes within the requirements, within the technology, or within the people. So in here, as the requirements are changing, you need to have an adaptive cycle that is completely adaptable. You're going to completely make a change within the schedule, the change within the requirements, change within the designing part. Now these, in here, you're going to rigorously gather all the requirements, as changes are going to be made frequently, or they might made within the later steps of the project. You need to completely gather all of this requirements very quickly. And this also focus on an iterative development cycle. Iterative development means first delivering the basic functionalities, or delivering first increment, delivering it in multiple increments. Now, ASD's overall emphasis, that is, it focuses on self-organizing teams. You've seen this. Interpersonal collaboration, that is how one person is going to communicate with the other person. And then it focuses on individual and team learning. That is how one particular person within a team is going to work, and how the entire team is going to learn from the development of the software. You've seen the three framework activities, or three steps within the adaptive software development, that is speculation, collaboration, and learning. The first step is speculation. Now speculation is first, like, you're inspecting everything. Now within the speculation phase, you're going to start with the project initiation. Now within the project initiation, you're going to start with the adaptive cycle planning, where you're going to take the customer's mission statement. That is, what is the goal that needs to be developed? What are the different, what needs to be developed? You're going to identify that within the first phase, the speculation point. Then you're going to identify whether there are any project constraints. What are constraints? Constraints means any limitations within the particular project. Now what can be the limitations within the project? Limitation can be they want some specific certain technology, your software to be developed on the specific technology only, or you might have some cost limitations, that it should not exceed the cost, or it should be, or in here, cost, it should not exceed the particular cost, and some specific features, they need to be there, they do not need to be changed, they need to be there anyhow. Then when you've got the goal of the particular project, when you've got the limitations of the particular project, it becomes easy for you to gather the basic requirements. Now when you know what are the different features, or what are the different functionalities that they want within a particular software, it becomes easy for you to tell in how many increments you're going to deliver the cycle, deliver the software. You can identify the time. That is, it is a time box technique, means you are going to identify within how much time you're going to deliver the software. It is going to take how much time to deliver each increment. Now these release cycles, for each increment, you're going to identify the time box release plan for each and every increment. Now in here, you have designed a release cycle for one increment. For multiple increments, this is going to be designed. That is when will be the entire project complete, and when you're going to have all the features within the software. That is identified within the first phase, that is the speculation phase. The next is the collaboration phase. Within this collaboration, you're going to gather all the requirements. You're going to follow JAD and mini specification. Now what is JAD? JAD is joint application development. Now joint in here means two people are going to be there and they are going to discuss how your software is going to be developed. Now in here, joint means you're going to have the customer and the developer. Both are going to be there whenever you're designing the customer. That is, entire customer involvement should be there. Now why this should be there? Because you can get the user's view or what the user wants within the business. What are his business needs? You can identify his business needs. Now when the customer and developer both are involved within the development of the particular software, they can identify the solution that need to be developed. That is JAD. Now within the collaboration phase, now what is collaboration? Collaboration means communication. Now in here, this communication phase is going to start at the requirement gathering phase only. That is when the end user and the developer are sitting face to face and they are telling what are the different features that they want within the particular software. At that time only the collaboration phase starts, that when you're communicating. Whereas joint application design, we have seen that within the joint application design, the customer involvement is going to be there so that you identify what are his needs. Now when you identify what are his needs, the customer and the developer both can identify the solution to the customer's problem. Then mini specifications, you're going to identify what are the, now in here you can have some specifications, that is the main criteria that you want. Now to fulfill the specification, you're going to have some sub specifications also, some mini specifications are also going to be there within this. You're also going to identify those mini specifications in here. Now in here, this collaboration phase, this collaboration phase is a recurring theme, because every time you're making a change within the software, every time you're developing a software, every time you're testing the software, you are going to have to communicate. That is why this is a recurring theme. Collaboration is a recurring theme. Then in here, well, motivated people should work together. Now why motivated people should work together? Motivated people should work together because you can have a brainstorm of ideas, you can focus on the best quality of the software. And when, if suppose you're working with motivated people also but you're unable to collaborate, then that is going to be of no use. That is why you need to work with motivated people, and in here you're going to focus on the communication. The next one is people working together must trust one another. Now in here, as multiple people are involved, whenever you're working as a team, one should be able to trust his partner with all the requirements within the software. Now as communication is going on, one needs to criticize without animosity. That is in here, if suppose you do not like a particular person, you should even if his design is the best, you're not going to criticize just because you hate him. So you're going to criticize without animosity. If any fault is there, then and only you're going to criticize the particular person. Whereas assist without resentment, now in here you're going to help them with the work without any bitterness. That is, this particular person did not help me when I have asked for help, then I'm also not going to help him. This should not be the attitude while you're assisting the particular person within a particular team. Work as hard or harder as they do. That is in here, you need to put in the same effort that the other person is giving in. Now the other person is hardworking, then you need to also hard work. Now if suppose the other person is not hardworking, you need to put in more hard work, and you're going to communicate, and both of them should work well on the software. Then have the skill set to contribute to work in hand. Now if suppose a particular technology is launched, some new technology is there, and in here that particular technology is used to develop a particular software. Now you do not know the particular technology, you have no idea. So in here you need to learn the skills that are required to work on the specific technology. You need to adapt yourself every time a new software is being launched or a new technology is being used. Then if any problems are there, you're going to communicate and resolve those problems. So these is what happens within the collaboration phase. You're going to gather all the requirements, you're going to focus on JAD, and you're going to focus on mini specifications. Now, while doing all of this, you need to focus on collaboration, communication without criticizing, with animosity, without the resentments, and working hard. The next phase within the ASD model, it is the learning phase. The third step is learning. Now, within this learning phase, you're going to have the components that are should be implemented and tested. You're going to have focus group, formal technical reviews, and postmortem. These are the three ways in which you're going to learn. Learning in three steps. Now, after that, when all of those three phases, first, second, and third, are completed, then the software is ready for release. That is, with each increment, when all of this are completed, with each increment, you're going to have a feature of the software being developed. Now, in here, if suppose you're having some issues, it is going to some feature requires some more time or some more testing, you're going to make adjustments within the subsequent cycle. That is how you're going to deliver them. Those adjustments can be made at the releasing time. Now, moving on to the learning phase. Now, ASD teams are going to learn in three ways. Now, in here, the focus groups. First, these focus groups are used so that you can take feedback from the customer. Now, in here, how you're going to take feedback, why we're going to take custom feedback from the customer, because in here, the software that is being developed, you are delivering it in multiple increments. You're focusing on different increments. Every time you're delivering an increment, one feature or two features are being delivered. So when the customer is going to work on this particular increment, when he works on this particular feature, he's going to give you the feedback. That is, whether it is working well or not, whether any changes are required, that is going to be set in here within the focus groups. Focus groups are designed for collecting feedback from the customers. The next is formal technical reviews. Now, in here, you're going to take the different technical reviews from the software that is being developed, that is in here, you're going to review the software component. That is what is being developed. You're going to see what is being developed. What are the features that are added within the software? What components are developed, you're going to identify those. And then when you identify what is being developed, you're going to focus on improving the quality of the particular software or the particular component, improving the quality and also learning from this process. Now, in here, when you're making any changes within the components, now if you can identify that this particular steps is going to improve the quality. So in here, next time you're developing a particular project, you're going to follow some specific strategy that is going to improve the quality. That is why you're learning from this particular process. The next phase is postmortems. Now, this postmortem, it means you're going to self-examine the work that you're going to do. You're going to self-examine the performance that you're achieving, the process that you're following, that is the different activities or the different tasks that you're following, whether they are the best ones or not, you're going to identify that. Now, in here, you're going to self-examine your performance and all the different process that you're following. This you're going to do so that you can learn from it, so that you can learn and improve your performance or the process or the task that you're following. So these are the three ways in which ASD is going to learn. So for the quick recap, within the speculation phase, what you have done, you've made an adaptive cycle for the plan so that you gather the user's goal, what needs to be developed. Any limitations within the project are going to be identified. Now, when you have got the goals and the limitations, you can identify what are the different features that are required within the software. And then when you know all the features, you can identify how much time it is going to take so that you can deliver each increment. That is the first phase, speculation phase. Whereas within the collaboration phase, this collaboration phase, first was speculation, second collaboration. Collaboration has started at the requirement gathering phase, because in here you are going to communicate between the end users and developers. Then JAD means you're going to have customer involvement in the development of the software, so that the customer and development both can provide solution. Then you're going to design the different specifications that are required. Now within collaboration, in here you're going to assist without any resentment each of the different tasks you're going to follow. You're going to give the best of your work. You're going to work hard. You're going to learn the different technologies that are used. Assist and criticize without resentment and animosity. Whereas the third part is learning. Within the learning phase, all these components are going to be gathered and you're going to test them, and learning is going to occur in three ways. You're going to learn in three ways. Focus groups are for collecting customer feedback for each software that you for each increment that you have delivered. Within the formal technical reviews, in here you're going to focus upon the different software components that you have developed. That is, you're going to review the software components. Now when you've reviewed, you're going to focus on how you're going to improve the quality of this software components. Then postmortem is introspecting your own work. Self examine or introspecting your own work so that you can improve your own performance and you can learn. And you're going to learn how to achieve the best quality software. We've covered two models within today's class. The others we are going to discuss within the next class.